How do you go from a kid at the University of Utah to one of the premier motorcycle coaches in the country? Well, for Nick Ienatsch, all it took to kickstart that journey was a letter to the editor of a moto magazine, although he did have a few twists and turns along the way. You may know Nick as the founder of Yamaha Champions Riding School, but he actually started as a journalist at Motorcyclist magazine, where he lived and breathed motorcycling 24/7, whether that was racing, riding, or just going out on great rides with his roommates, who also happened to work at the magazine. From there, Nick joined forces with Freddie Spencer's High Performance Riding School, wrote a must-read book called Sport Riding Techniques, and he's helped hundreds of thousands of riders improve their skills, whether that's through articles, videos, or in person. We'll get to the finer points of Yamaha Champions Riding School and nerd out on some riding techniques in Part 2. But here in Part 1, we'll talk about how Nick learned to love motorcycles even more over a 4-decade career than when he started. This is Nick Ienatsch. I'm your host, Mark Long, and you're listening to Driven to Ride. All right, Nick Ienatsch, you are on Driven to Ride. Thank you so much for being here. I am stoked to have you here.
Well, thanks, Mark. It's nice to be here.
Yeah. I mean, you're a motorcycle industry stalwart. You've got an illustrious career. There's a lot to talk about. I don't think we'll get to all of it, but we'll try our damnedest. So just to start, and I want you to say it in your own words, what do people most know you for, and what is your claim to fame?
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of they asked some big star, what's your best asset? And he said, it's got to be my humility. So kind of a funny joke, but I think, I don't know, probably if you're an old timer, I was around back in '84. I got hired at the magazines. Art Friedman hired me at Motorcyclist. So at the magazine for 12 years. And then I started with Freddie Spencer when he launched the school. I was his right-hand man, and that was 97. So people know me for that. And then Champ School came along, 12 years later. So Champ School came along in 08-ish. So that's kind of what I'm known for. And did some racing in between all that too. But I think probably the magazine stuff and the education.
Nice. Yeah, you've, my impression, at least from coming into the motorcycle industry, is kind of the pillar or the top dog kind of in motorcycle education at a very high level right now. That's kind of my impression, and it seems like it's very well earned, which is super cool. So I'm kind of stoked to dig into this. But before we get to Champ School, before Freddie Spencer, before Motorcyclist magazine, how did you even get started riding in the first place?
Well, my dad was a motorcyclist, thank goodness. And He was riding when my brother and I were born. So he was riding. And then, so of course, I rode on the back with him. And then I was 12 years old. He took me down to State Sport Suzuki in Salt Lake. And we bought a little dirt bike, bought a TM 125. I would have bought an RM 125, but I was so little I couldn't fit on one. So I got a TM 125, and that, apparently changed my life, really. I mean, it just put me on this path to motorcycling, but it was always riding with my dad and then getting that 125 when I was 12.
Yeah. So you were hooked basically right from the start.
Yeah. It was just part of my life. It just wasn't even a question like, do you think you want to ride? It was just, I was just hooked. And I was also hooked on working on them and cleaning them and being around them. I really enjoy that side of things. I'm not a bike builder by any means, but I can wax the gas tank, and I like that side of it, so that was a big pull, all the cool pieces. And then, I like the people a lot. I love the people. The people in motorcycling seem to have some type of humility that comes from perhaps crashing your brains out all by yourself. I don't know. But maybe crashing out of a Leva National, for instance.
Right.
So I like the people too. So the bikes are really cool, the feeling of riding, and then the people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I kind of start every show with asking people to toot their own horn, and it's funny. There's always that like half second of hesitation, like, oh really, like I got to do that. Like nobody really wants to do it, and it's kind of funny for me after almost like over 50 shows now of like I can kind of see the hesitation because everybody is very humble in the motorcycle world. You're right.
Well, yeah, a lot of us, for instance, went to the Willow Springs 24-hour and got passed by Kevin Schwantz 2 times in 1 hour. And he went by with his fairings flapping and his just so much faster than me. And you show up at some track day and some 13-year-old kid is lapping you. And so, I mean, it just keeps you humble that way. And there's, when you make mistakes on a motorcycle, it's often quite punishing. Mm-hmm. And so those mistakes stick with you for a while, and they just make you realize, man, until you're truly winning the MotoGP World Championship in racing, you probably should be fairly humble. That's my thought.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's probably a good mindset to have. Keep an open mind, a learning mindset, and things like that.
I will say, like when you meet Freddie Spencer, Eddie Lawson, Schwantz, these guys, these top level guys, Rainey, they are very humble and kind and sweet. But boy, do they have backbone. I mean, these guys got backbone. Like I saw Freddie Spencer get pushed once in kind of a weird situation, argumentative type of situation, and
Oh, really?
yeah, and he bowed up pretty good. He was like, well. This is who I am. This is how it is, and I was like, that very nice person has got some strength, man. So that's what I think is in the backing up all those top level people is they have that desire and strength.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like usually that kind of energy is reserved for the track unless somebody pushes them.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes, right.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask though real quick. You said your dad took you down to Salt Lake. Are you from the Intermountain West then? Are you from the Utah area? From Idaho?
No, I was actually born just north of you. I was born in Monroe, Wisconsin.
Oh, no way.
So yeah, but born in Monroe, and then my dad was a mining engineer, so lived down in Peru, South America, for the first 9 years of my life. And so from 1 to 10, I was in Peru, up in the Andes Mountains, and my mom was a teacher, and my dad was an engineer. And then we moved back to America in about 70, and my dad got a job out at Kennecott in Salt Lake. So that's where we lived. And then in '84, I moved to California.
Gotcha. Yeah. The reason I ask, I lived in Boise, Idaho for a while. So spent a couple of times, went down and visited Salt Lake a few times and have been down there. It's a cool spot.
Yes, it is. Good spot and great motorcycle riding, just fantastic riding. Within 10 minutes of my house were the canyons. And I had a bunch of friends who rode. My dad and I rode almost every Sunday. I mean, just a really great place to learn how to do that. And in some ways, it was back in the day before they built Miller Motorsports Park. And so in some ways, not growing up around a racetrack and just street riding with my dad was actually probably pretty good because I didn't get that real speed Jones at the age of 16. Like I got to go racing. So in some ways, it worked out pretty well. I didn't go racing until quite a few years later. So
yeah, it was almost like maybe you learned like discipline and technique first before getting a chance to crack 100, on a straightaway.
Yeah. Well, I had a Suzuki 1000. We bought Suzukis. My dad had 1100 with the 4-valve head, and I had a 1000 with a 2-valve head, 1000S West Cooley. If you remember those? And he was always so pissed because I got better gas mileage than he did. But my bike went in for the 10,000 mile service, and the service manager walked out and said, "Hey, your bike has no compression." And I was like, I was 18 years old, 19 years old, riding with my dad, and we talked about it. He goes, "Well, how high do you rev it?" I said, "Well, sometimes I rev it to 4,500 or 5,000." And he's like, "Well, Nick, you have the cylinder wall pressure. They're not pushing the rings against the cylinder walls. You got to rev it up a little bit more." So so that was how I would ride. I would ride with my dad, burr, burr, burr,
Yeah. Low RPM and short shift and
Yep. So, but that I learned from that.
Right. A learning experience. Yeah. So you didn't get into racing until a little bit later, but how did you take that first step into the racing world then?
Well, I showed up at Motorcyclist. I got hired there in '84.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was some really cool things coming out. FJ 1200 was coming out. We were a year away from the FC 750. GS6R 750 was in Europe in '85. So things were really starting to happen. And we would go and take any bike we had to Willow Springs, Motorcyclist magazine group. And I was hanging out with Art Friedman, Jeff Carr, Dexter Ford, Brent Ross, guys, especially Brent. I mean, he was racing AMA Nationals on a 500. And so these are the people I got thrown into, right? This is the group that I was like, oh, here's the new idiot. Come on. And so I would go to the racetrack. Yeah. I'd go to the racetrack with them. And Brent Ross would lap me on a Virago. And so that was part of my life then. We'd go to the racetrack. We'd ride around. We'd make our notes. And I was not a fast guy at all, but I was getting around Willow Springs. So '85, I think it was, Dennis Smith, who owned Cycle Tune back then, he came to me and said, "Hey, why don't you, as a journalist, why don't you ride on our 24-hour?" Right?
Oh, jeez.
24-hour school. And that's when I got passed by Schwantz. But anyway, so I said, okay, that'd be good. I was so nervous. And I was doing stories with Eddie Lawson at the time. And I remember Eddie just talking me down off the roof. I was just so nervous. I thought, I'm going to go crash this thing and ruin their chance. It was a brand new FC 750. So it must have been 85. And it was all the top guys. Dennis Smith is super fast. I mean, all these top guys. And I was truly like, how do I put my leathers on? So, so I showed up there and I did not crash the bike, and we did win. I didn't win it. Yeah, I didn't win it, but I did not lose it. And that's a big, that's a big,
good.
Oh yeah. That's a big bit of my advice to people who want to go endurance racing for the first time, is don't lose it. Don't lose it for the team. And so anyway, I didn't lose it. And that's how racing started. And so then I was racing around Willow, and a few years later, had enough time, was going pretty good, and got a 250 and a 600 and a 400 and a 600 single. And really went after it after that. So that's how it started.
So it sounds like you had to start racing for your job.
Right. There you go.
Bummer.
And and this was also back when it was big money. There was big money at Willow. We had 1,000 people show up at Willow sometimes to race, and there was some money, and there was contingency money, there was helmet money, tire money, and I mean money, not just like, oh, here's a free set of tires. I mean, here's a check. And so there was some motivation there too, to get going. But I think that, certain personalities can't not race. You know what I mean? There's
sure. Yeah.
And you might be one of those, right?
Blood, yeah.
Right. And you may not even know you are until you start doing competitive things, and you just find out, man, I don't want to lose this. So that's how it comes together for a lot of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I found that out young when I would go to like a family fun center and go karting. Right. And I would just have to beat everybody, and would go to like the Wisconsin Dells with family or whatever.
Yes.
I'd have to be the one that never let off the throttle, like just foot down the whole way. So
nice.
I think it's just built into some people. And then another quick thing, I'm really glad you said FJ 1100. I have an 86 FJ 1200 sitting in my garage. So
fantastic bike. I mean, just does it all. Yeah. Super torquey. I mean, really great. And if you ever need to sell it, Legends cars have FJs in them, so you'll have a buyer. You have a built-in buyer.
That's right. Yeah. The Barber Motorsports people don't know this yet, but my end goal is to just donate it to them once I'm too old to ride in like 100 years or whatever. So
very cool.
I was down there last fall for the vintage days, and I had never been before, but obviously like jaw dropped or whatever. And I'm like, they got to have an FJ here somewhere. And I think they have an 85 in the basement that's sitting on the wall. I took a video of it, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. So it's much nicer condition than mine, but it was cool to see. And you don't hear about that bike too often. So anytime anybody says something, my ears perk up. But let's go take a step back real quick. And I apologize, I didn't mean to gloss over it. But how did you get into motorcycle journalism in the first place? Tell me that story.
Well, I was going to the University of Utah in Salt Lake. I was working at State Sport Suzuki, a bike shop. The bike where I bought the TM 125, 6 or 7 years earlier. Yeah. And my dad and I had bought a lot of bikes from them, and we're, Suzuki people at that time. So I was working at the bike shop, writing in college. I wasn't a journalism major. Thank goodness I was an English major. And I was basically flunking out of college. I would say I was on the 6 or 7 year program. I was just there not to party, because I didn't party very much, but I was there because I was in a fraternity that I just had the best friends and just really enjoyed it. And so I was just kind of lollygagging through college, skiing every afternoon in the winter. Sure, yeah. Yeah. And then working at the bike shop in the spring, summer, and fall. So anyway, yeah. So I wrote a letter to Art Friedman at Motorcyclist, and I said, how does the person get a job? And 6 or 7 months later, he wrote back and said, hey, we've got an opening. Ken Vreek had left, seriously fast motojournalist. He'd left the magazine, and so Art was looking for somebody. So my mother, who was also an English major and a teacher, we put together this resume that was shaped in a Suzuki S. Suzuki S. That's what the paper was shaped in, and I did photos and captions and stories, and I mean, I knew, my mom and I both knew this was it. This was it. And of course, my dad was hoping this is it, so I get the hell out of there. So I'm kidding. So I sent that down to Art, and he wrote back and said, why don't you come down for an interview? And so I rode my bike. I had a GS 850G, or maybe 1100G at that time. I can't remember. But I had a shaft drive Suzuki. So I rode my bike down to California, and I stayed at my friend's house, and he said, "Do you want the job? Do you really want the job?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Well, you aren't dressed right." So he redressed me in all his clothes. I'm not kidding. He dressed me head to toe in what, were apparently stylish clothing. And I went to the magazine on my bike, and I did a day long interview with them, went everywhere with them, rode with them, did another half day interview, met all the bosses, and then I got hired that evening, and went back to Salt Lake, loaded up a U-Haul, and came down to California. So it was just a dream. And I think, I believe in the Lord, I believe in his guidance. And that was what that was, because I was not necessarily qualified in any real way. I mean, I was just a street rider. I was just an English major, but for some reason, Art Friedman hired me, and man, that was my whole life. When I got that job, I was like, this is it. And, still messing with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the top motorcycle magazines in the country, and,
Yep.
Magazines were still king, back in the day at that point. And, I got to ask though, when you during this whole interview and stuff like that, were you nervous to go on a ride with them? Cause obviously that's probably one of the make it or break it points of the interview, oddly enough.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing was, I probably had more confidence. I was like that guy who hasn't raced, where you think you're pretty good.
Right.
I probably had more confidence than I should have. But Art Friedman is just a very nice person. He's just a very good person. He's just a sweet man. And he was back then too. And they were racing. Art was racing. They raced the 24-hour at Nelson Ledges every year. So they were into it. They had this true joy of motorcycling. And Art Friedman had this real serious approach to riding in traffic. And so she was just into it. And so was my dad. My dad was an engineer, and my dad taught me to cover the brake right away. I mean, he taught me all those things as well. And so he wasn't just pushing paper around. He was truly riding every day. And I remember the days that he couldn't ride in for some reason. He did not like it. And that kind of reflected in the whole staff. The whole staff was totally into it, and nobody at Motorcyclist was faking it. I mean, they were all after it. So
yeah,
I don't know. Did you read the magazine back then? Were you reading it back in the?
Admittedly, it was a little before my time.
A bit, yeah.
But yeah. I've become pretty familiar with it over time.
Yeah. Well, one thing that sticks with me, and the reason I try to, I believe the school should be fun, is because we had Jeff Carr and Dexter Ford, great riders, but great writers. They would do Last Page. They would do these humorous make-believe. They'd build a make-believe motorcycle. They would do these humorous stories in Motorcyclist. And of course, Art went along with them. But those two guys were insanely good writers. They could trick you into things that were so funny. And I just remember how fun it was. And so I've always felt that if motorcycling, unless it's your living, unless you're a motor officer or you're road racing, then fun should, or a bike courier, fun should be second place to making a living and but it's got to be fun. And so I've got that from Art Friedman, Jeff Carr, Dexter Ford, those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Every video I think I've seen of you, every photo, it looks like you're still having fun after all these years. I mean, there's almost always have a smile or an approving grin most of the time.
Well, thanks.
It looks like you're always having fun still, which is awesome.
Well, I told my guys, I got a lot of kids working for me, and I told them that I appreciate motorcycling more now than ever, and I actually appreciate life more now than ever. Maybe because as you get older, you can see that that you're closer to the end of it, whatever that means. I have only probably got another 50 or 60 years left, So I really do enjoy it more, and I really do enjoy it. There's something about riding that's been written about forever, but part of it is that you're surviving a life-threatening risk. That is definitely part of it. When you get home, especially after racing on Sunday and doing well on Sunday, and you're sitting at dinner with your team, those are some of the moments like, wow, this is an amazing life. And my wife rides, and we'll go out for a ride. We'll get back home, and it'll be like, wow, that was really fantastic. And some of the people listening, they might jump out of airplanes, and they, jump out of helicopters and shoot people, and maybe dive with sharks naked with a piece of steak wrapped around their neck. I don't know. I don't do any of that. I just ride motorcycles, and so it is the highest risk thing in my life, and it's still the most enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. It's good to know that it only gets better as time goes
Yes.
on.
Yep.
It
Yep.
only
Yep.
gets better.
Yep. But you have to
Um,
survive it. You have to survive it.
there is that, yeah, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. Before we get there, though, can you kind of walk me through how your racing career kind of developed from there? I mean, a hell of a start, and it only kind of developed from there. So,
Yeah. So then we did some really silly things like Mitch Baim. Do you know him?
yeah,
Okay. He'd be great on here too. He's a great dude.
hmm
And
yeah,
he has changed AMA magazine. I don't know if you get the
hmm
AMA magazine. He has revitalized it. He's done a great job. So Mitch Baim and I would take street bikes. We would take street bikes and go to the racetrack on them on our weekends.
Oh no way.
Which, yeah, not always approved, by the way. We would load them up. I remember loading them up and going up to Vegas. We drove up to Vegas with two street test bikes and rode them
Right.
around the racetrack. So, we were kind of getting after it. We hired him in '85. So we were getting after it. And I went to the California Superbike School. And probably the most important thing I did during that time is I sold Art Friedman on a story called Lawson's Lines with Eddie Lawson.
Okay.
And Eddie was, first time world champion in '84. He won '84, '86, '88, and then '89. And so I was there just as he went across the pond, and we became friends. And
hmm
his lifestyle and his way of approaching things came through in the stories, and of course, it affected me greatly. I mean, just literally the way his car would never be dirty. There would never be a old sandwich bag laying on the floor. His place was always nice. He believed that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So you could tell just the way he went about his life. And that kind of rubbed off on me, He'd show up with
Sure.
his dirt bike clean. And so that was kind of the way I watched that and I paid attention to it. And he couldn't make any excuses. Eddie never made an excuse. He would not win. And then I would have to push him to say, why did you not win? Because he would never say, oh, my front tire went flat. I mean, he was just never
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
way. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So he had that kind of a real approach to it. So that really rubbed off on me. And so when the 24-hour came up, we talked about that and about me, what I'm going to do. He
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
give me some information and some quotes. Then about I don't know 6 to 12 months later, I went to Laguna Seca with Eddie Lawson on FC 750s with
Okay.
Dexter Ford, and Dexter Ford wrote a story about Eddie Lawson coaching me on the same exact bike, and I had my Eddie Lawson replica helmet. So
Nice.
so that really that was a big step to hear from the world champion how it goes instead of your uncle or your brother. That was a big
Yeah.
help,
Yeah.
and so the racing just came about, and then I was lucky enough to meet Steve Johnson at Kirker. He's passed
hmm
now, but he was a Rob Mussey guy. He was Eddie Lawson's tuner. I mean, he went into car stuff. He was NASCAR guy, Steve Johnson, and he built me an FCR 400 and an FCR 600 that I raced at Willow. Then
Okay.
I met Steve Bagansky, and Bagansky built me a TZ250, and it just kind of went from there. And I met John Cordona at Fours and More, and he built me an SRX 600. So then I had 4 race bikes, and I was, we raced once a month at Willow, and I was off to the races. So that's how it happened.
Yeah, man, that's like a dream come true. It's like, it's like, oh, I'm trying to get into this and, learning from the best, getting some of the best tuning and equipment and customization mechanically that you could get at the time. I mean, that's a great foundation.
Yes, it was, and I was in the moment at that time. I wasn't taking it for granted. I was very appreciative. I won a lot of money back
Sure.
then, and
hmm
50 cents of every dollar I won went to Steve Bagansky on the TZ
Oh,
because he
wow.
built that TZ. Steve Johnson didn't want the money, didn't need the money. Cordona didn't either, but Steve and I split every dollar I won. And there were some days, man, I would take literally $8,000 home from Willow Springs, just in cash and checks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was a good time to be racing. A lot of competition. We're always testing tires. This was a time when the tire evolution was coming so quickly. So it was
Oh, sure.
really
Yeah.
a great time. And I met Judy. I met my wife at Willow Springs in 89 or 90. So a
hmm
lot of good things came from racing. I mean, almost every good thing in my life has come from racing because once you start racing and doing well, doors really open.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because I imagine where like I said, you kind of have some of the best coaching and some of the best, these lessons and coaching from some of the, highest caliber racers in the world, champions, some legendary tuners and some mechanics and builders. It doesn't leave a lot of room for excuses.
Right. What are you going to say?
Poor performance.
Yeah. Yeah. The bikes are as good as they're going to get. I mean, they're the best bikes there for that time. And our office at Motorcyclist was maybe 5-6 miles from Keith Code's house. And so Keith Code and I became friends through the magazine.
Yeah.
So I would watch his house while he was traveling. I would stay at his house. So he and I became friends. And so always talking about riding, always talking about racing. And he was a big influence, a big guide in my life, as well as many motorcyclists in the country. So, there a lot of things came together, and it was, I mean, it just was a wonderful time. There was all we did is think about motorcycles. I lived with Lance Holst. Do you know him?
The name rings a bell.
Okay. He was our senior editor at Motorcyclist, and then became senior editor Sport Rider when I started Sport Rider. And Jason Black. And Jason Black was editor at Motorcyclist, and then came to Sport Rider with me. So we started Sport Rider, me and Lance and Jason. And so we lived together. We worked together. We raced. We all raced. Those guys won class championships. Lance was number one plate holder at Willow twice. So everything was motorcycling. And all we wanted to do was ride motorcycles. We were just going to ride bikes. And there was a lot of crazy, funny times, but it was all pure. There were just all bikes, all two wheels.
Yeah. And in California too. I mean, what better place could you be for it,
Yeah. The days that one of us had to drive the van to work or something was just, we're like, what, why am I in jail? This sucks. We would be so pissed. And we had a rule, and I of course wouldn't ever advise this, but we had a rule that we had to go 100 miles an hour every day. So you can imagine we'd have a 250 Ninja back in the day. We'd get on the freeway on-ramp in Panorama City, and it would be pinned for 3 miles before the thing could go 100.
We're gonna get there. It's gonna take some time.
That was the rule. So that's the kind of life we had, and we were all racing. We met Kent Kunitsugu. He'd be great on here. He took over Sport Rider when we left, and so Andy Milton, Steve Michaelis, all these guys. We rode every Sunday in the canyons, and we rode every month at Willow. So that was a great time.
Yeah, that sounds like just a magical time. Right place, right time, right people, and so hanging out with Eddie Lawson and Keith Code, and obviously Keith Code, Superbike School, major coach and educator in the motorcycle world. Is that where you kind of got the itch to start coaching from?
Well, my mom was a teacher, and my dad was a flight instructor. He was a flight instructor. So,
no way. Okay.
Yeah, that was that was the second job. He was a mining engineer, but he was a flight instructor, and he was a double I. He's an instrument instructor. I mean, he was really something. He was pretty famous in Salt Lake for that. Okay. And so we talked a lot about this kind of stuff. We talked a lot about the learning of people, and so it's just kind of in our conversations. But I was number one plate at Willow, and Don Spina decided to rent the track on Fridays before the race weekends, raced once a month, and put on a track day. And so he came to me. He was my tax guy. So I met him at through motorcycling too. So he's my tax guy. And so Don Spina said, why don't you put on a little school for new riders? And I said, great. So I did what makes so much sense to me. I hired the best class champions. I mean, Michaelis, Andy Milton, Lance, Jason Black. I mean, I hired all these guys that won class championships to be my instructors. That made sense to me. That made sense.
Makes perfect sense. Right? Yeah.
And that's kind of bled into the Champions Riding School. But so we put on these schools at Willow, and my boss was pissed. He was not pleased with that. Yeah, because I would be taking Friday off, and I would just kind of disappear Friday or whatever. So we put on these schools, but that's kind of how it happened, is that we started doing that track days, track riders school, whatever it was called. And that got me thinking about, how do you put this into the right order? What should students hear first, and what counts, what doesn't count? How do you put it on there? Because the information is relatively well known, but putting it in the correct order is I think one of the secrets to teaching.
Okay. Can you expand on that a little bit, maybe in terms of motorcycling? Is that just tell me more a little bit about that. I'm curious about what you mean by that.
Well, and this is all, my outlook. But when you're going to teach a group of people that are of all different levels, just just naturally different levels. Sometimes it's different skill levels, sometimes it's experience levels, sometimes it's risk management levels. I mean, so some people have a higher risk tolerance. And so if you're going to do that, you cannot leave anybody by the wayside. You cannot skip over the new riders information, yet you've got to keep the advanced riders entertained, right? So
Okay.
my philosophy at Champ School, for instance, is that it's got to be a little bit overwhelming. The new riders have to hear things that they're like not ready for, and the advanced riders have to hear things that will find them. And when I talk advanced riders, I'm talking about these guys and gals that show up and they're racing at an expert level and they want to go to Moto America. We've had Moto
Oh,
America riders
okay.
come to our school because they keep tipping over and they want to quit tipping over. So they
Mm-hmm.
need to learn to find 2/10, 3/10, 2/10, 1/10 for that 3/4 of a second that they need to catch up to the lead group. So they have to hear those little things, amazingly minor things, seemingly minor things that will keep them off the deck and going quicker. So that's the secret. That's the trick, right? So new people, they get a little bit overwhelmed, but they
Mm-hmm.
hear, oh my gosh, there's so much more to it than I ever thought. And the advanced people hear what they have to hear. So that's, to me, that's a big part of the school. And that's why we don't do levels. We don't do level one, because an advanced rider shows up in level one. And you can't do level two till you do level one, whatever,
Right.
how you
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it that's wrong. I'm saying that's not how we do it. We take everybody together and then we get things rolling, and then we separate them up into the groups that match their style a little bit better, and off we go. But we've had obviously a very good, successful school. One time we had a guy stand up in the back of the class at the very end at pit race, and he said, "Students," he goes, he's a quiet guy, very fast. He said,
Mm-hmm.
"This is the only place I can go to go fast, to find how to go faster." Because this is the
Wow.
only place that can teach me to go faster. And that was a nice compliment, because sure, we can help new riders. That's relatively easy. But for him to say that was pretty cool. So, that's the kind of thing that we're chasing, is that the advanced people definitely get what they need, right? Not get bored.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to be, it had to have been tough to figure out how to make everything approachable and leave nobody behind, but also, get to that point where you're improving that last 5, 4, 3, 2%.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yes, and that's where it counts. Some kid shows up at the racetrack and he's 2 seconds off your pace. You're not worried about 2 seconds off. 2 seconds off is a mile.
Mm-hmm.
If they're 8 seconds off, the first 6 seconds is pretty easy to find. You can kind of close your eyes, throw it in there, whatever you want to do. It's the work starts in that last 2 seconds, in our opinion. And then, of course, at the national level, look at MotoGP. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're the first 4 rows are within 7/10 of a second. So 7/10 of a second, which I can't even say here, right? It's 1,000. That's 7/10. The
Yeah.
first 12 people just went by. So for anybody who's listening to this, you really need to look into the details as we go quicker. That's quicker on the street or quicker on the track. One of the things that we do is we definitely get the new rider group separated away from the advanced group. We definitely do that. So the new
Okay.
rider groups
Sure.
rides by themselves for 1 3/4 days. Only 12 to 14 riders on the track with the instructors, and so that's a big thing, because it's one reason you would quit doing track days is because you show up as a new rider and you get passed on this side and passed on this side, passed around the outside, passed up the inside, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to hurt myself. So the new riders, the people who are out there that want to improve their riding, you will be in a group with only 12 or 14 other people. I think that's a big. By the end of 2 days, you're riding pretty well, and you're ready to be out with the whole group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a pretty fast acceleration into that, which is cool. It's got to be exciting to experience as well.
yeah.
But
Can I interrupt you? Can I interrupt you?
yeah, please.
Sorry. The thought I had was, what has changed at our school is rule number 5. And rule number 5, there's four of the rules: pass safely, don't go backward, don't beat it up on our bikes. If you crash our bike, you got to pay for it. Now, rule number 5 is, you got to get what you need. You got to ask the question, raise your hand. And rule number 5 has helped a lot, Mark, because
Okay.
what happens if we have an advanced rider who's not getting what he or she needs, right? If they're like, man, I'm not really hearing anything that really helps me, they need to raise their hand and say, you know what, I need some specific information on turn 4 here, because I'm 3/10 of a second slower than my competition in turn 4. So
Mm-hmm.
that rule number 5 has become a big thing at our school, and we do encourage students. We actually say it's a rule. You have to come up and you have to ask us. If you're shy You don't want to ask in public, in group, that's fine. But walk up to one of these guys, rock up to one of these AMA national winning racers and
Yeah.
ask them the questions. For you street riders, if you have questions about street riding, like blind spots that we may not cover in the class, walk up to one of our street rider guys and ask them about blind spots. So that's been a big part of it, is that rule number 5 is in play, because we'd get done with a school and somebody would come up and go, hey, you never talked about this. I'm like, shoot, we should have talked about it. But now we're saying, please ask.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Because it makes it more focused, and then people get more out of it that way. So,
Yep.
Well, I don't mean to skip over your time with Freddie Spencer, so maybe we can talk about that real quick. Is that philosophy that you kind of discovered and started with as a foundation for teaching people? Is that what attracted Freddie Spencer to you as a coach?
Yes, for sure. I met Freddie through the journalism and interviewed him a couple times, and didn't particularly like him, really.
Really?
I mean? Yeah, he was just at such a different level. Those guys don't like journalists. Journalists have done them wrong. Basically, they've written crap about them, and so all of us were lumped into one sum. And he was fine, but he wasn't. No big deal. But I'd written to Honda, in about '96. I said, "Hey, I'm doing the school at Willow. I would like to start a school with you." And Honda wrote back and said, "There's one guy ahead of you, but we'll let you know." And it was Freddie. So in '97, I was racing at 250s at the Las Vegas National, and Freddie showed up and announced the school. And I remember coming in after practice, tracking him down, introducing myself again, and saying, "Freddie, this is what I love to do. I'm a street rider as well as a racer. I would just love to be involved, and could I send you my resume?" So he said, "Yeah." So he hired me, a week later, and
wow.
So that's how it happened. I just believe in the education. I believe so strongly in what education will do to motorcycle riders, because the downsides are so bad. Doing it wrong can be so bad. And all of you out there who have crashed one of these things, have you crashed a street bike ever, Mark?
Knock on wood, I have not.
Good. That puts you in a rare air, which, that's who we want to be. We want to be that rider who rides the pace we want, excuse me, without falling over. And we could slow down and not fall over, but that's not why you bought an FJ 1100. And you could also quit riding and not fall down, but that's not who we are. So how do you do this at a pace you want, and not fall down? So I so believe in it, because I did well on the racetrack, and I do believe I don't have the talent of some of the people who I consistently beat, but I believed in working hard and getting myself educated, and so that's how I believe it. I just take that into the school, that belief, and our instructors will tell our students, we have more faith in you than you do. You don't believe how well you can do this, but if you follow this plan, if you do these things, it does work really well. Because the idea behind the school, the Champion School, is let's ride the bike the way the designer designed it. And all those bike designers have won championships. You don't get hired to come and test BMW and design BMW steering systems by losing. So all those Nate Kerns, right? Nate Kern went to BMW to help with that. So that's our belief. So now we're getting people to ride the bike like the designer wrote it, and that's why we have such success, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's a really cool way of looking at it. Is be as fast as maybe the bike allows you to, and ride to the potential of the motorcycle. That's a really cool way of looking at it. I know we're a ways into it now, and we're just getting to Champ School, but I want to get into that now. Is that can you give us just kind of a brief overview of Champ School and maybe how it got started and what what you guys do differently, because it really is a unique school.
Well, thanks. It is, and I do. I think the world of Freddie. He and I became very close friends, hanging out at each other's houses. I mean, I think the world of him. He's a very neat guy, great sense of humor, very humble, done a lot. So the Freddie thing really came together, and Freddie started right away with "You've got to trail brake" right away. And that back in that day, that was '97. Back in that day, it was a very don't be trail braking. That's for racetrack only.
That was unheard of at that time.
Yeah, don't do it on a street tire. You got to have a racing slick. So anyway, so Freddie really got us started then. When the Freddie school ended in '08, we had a couple of graduates come to the school, Josh Siegel and Lamore Shore. Both of them came to the school multiple times, and they so believed in the product that that was 13. So let me go back to '08. That happened
Sure.
in
Yeah.
13. In '08, Ken Hill and I were teaching at Freddie Spencer's.
Oh yeah.
Ken was my main guy,
Yeah.
and along with Schellinger and all these really guys, Shane Turpin, Dale Kiefer. I mean, top level AMA guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Ken and I basically went to Yamaha and said,
Mm-hmm.
we've got a great school here. We don't have any bikes. We don't have any sponsors, but we have a great school. And Yamaha said, okay, let's do this along with Miller Motorsports Park. So Miller and Yamaha combined with Ken Hill and I in '08 to run a 5-year school at Miller. So that's how it happened. And we just took the Freddie Spencer school and put it on steroids, basically. Took the best messages, removed some of the time that wasn't quite used right, and just kept tweaking on it. And it was called the Yamaha Champions Riding School. And the beautiful thing about calling it Champions is that you can keep changing the curriculum, right? You can just keep changing the curriculum. You don't have to be stuck with, this is what I did. It wasn't the Ken Hill school, the Nick Ienatsch school. It was the Champions Riding School. So we could say, you know what we're doing now? We're doing the leg dangle because Rossi does the leg dangle. So let's all do the leg dangle. I was just going to say, right?
Yeah, you can follow the techniques and the trends that are going that are happening in Moto America or MotoGP, and that's smart.
Yeah, like you see Kayla now. Kayla, she sometimes both of her feet will be off the foot pegs in the brake zone because she's got so much pressure against that inside thigh. Right, here's this incredible motorcycle rider. I mean, she's just out of this world, and she's doing she's got all that pressure on under braking. And so her feet don't have to be on the foot pegs. So anyway, it's things like that, right? Bagnaia is pinching the fuel tank with his inside leg, even when his butt's to the right on braking. So those are the kind of things we mess with, and that's the beautiful part about Champion School. And the idea is, if you don't understand how the bike's designed, it's hard to ride it well. And so what we've done is we've become a data-driven school, and we literally study data from top riders. Luckily, some of my guys are top riders. I mean, some have national champions working at YCRS. We can study their data. We got a chance to sit down with Rossi's data guy at CODA and go over that data. We study data, and we teach from data. We have data on bikes for grads and stuff like that. So that has really been a blessing because, as you know, there's so many opinions here. You hear something from your dad, your uncle, you read about on YouTube. Some guy, even today tells you, do not be teaching trail braking on the street. 100% wrong. 100% wrong. So provably wrong. So we teach from data, and we take this idea that the bike is designed in this way. Like the fork springs are designed to have a load put in them in a linear fashion before the pressure comes up. So if you grab your fork spring, it bottoms so quickly that the back end comes off the ground, ABS goes in, or it locks. So it's not a pressure issue; it's the speed of the pressure. And when you, but if you understand how a spring's supposed to be loaded, then all of a sudden you never grab that brake again. So that's how we chase it. And there's lots of intricacies inside of that idea, but that's how we chase it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's cool having kind of the same bikes or providing motorcycles. That's got to make it a little bit easier to teach because you're starting from the same baseline too, rather than, okay, you've got somebody on a 900, somebody on a 400, somebody on 1,000. You know what I mean? That's got to be kind of a level playing field, which, like if you take the MSF courses or anything like that, usually, or maybe another private instruction, you're kind of showing up on whatever you've got, which is obviously good to get to know your own motorcycle or whatever. But, I think it probably does something interesting psychologically where it's like this advanced rider can ride this exact same motorcycle, like twice, 3 times as fast as me. Yeah. What's the difference? How can I get to that level on the exact same motorcycle?
That is exactly right. And over the last couple of years, we really opened it up to bring your own bike if you want, because enough people said what you just said. I'd like to learn this on my own bike. So you can bring any bike you want to our school. We'll have race bikes show up. We'll have baggers show up. So that's a big help for some people. And everybody is asked to get on the back with one of these instructors, one of these senior instructors.
Yeah.
And once you get on the back of an MT10 or a Tracer and you ride around with one of these guys, and you can tell them to go as fast or slow as if you want. And we tell people you can tap the chest if they're going too quick and keep it that way. But once you ride around on a stock bike with Bridgestone S23s on it. Other than that, completely stock. You get
Yeah.
off that bike and you see this headroom. You see what you can grow into in everything: brake pressure, lean angle, acceleration pressure. I mean, you see all these things. Smoothness is a big thing. That's a game changer. And
Mm-hmm.
we used to do 2-ups, like at Freddie's, to kind of whoever wanted one. Now we say, please, let's get on the back. It's not mandatory, but let's get on the back, because what you just said, once someone sees what a stock bike will do, they're like, wow, okay, I'm maybe not gonna spend $3,000 on my bike. I'm gonna spend it on my riding.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about, your instructors a little, because like you said, you've got some top tier riders, some champions and stuff like that. How do you train those guys?
It's invite only.
Okay.
It's invite only. Every school is invite only for instructors. It's never, hey, who's in the area? Who's available? Do you have a friend? It is truly invite only. And a couple years ago, the ownership group took this idea to take the core instructing group and move them around the country, as opposed to try to have a West Coast, Central, and East Coast group of instructors. And so now we move the core instructor group around, and that is, of course, tightened the school, tightened the package,
Right.
gotten it tougher, a lot better in our opinion. And the two lead instructors, Chris Paris is our lead senior chief instructor, and 9-time we're a heavyweight endurance champion. I mean, just insane motorcycle rider, great guy, truly believes in the message, just a great kid. So he's our main guy, runs the instructor program. And then Isaiah Davis, uh, Cody Wyman, there are two senior lead instructors. They'll be leading the groups, and building into that is Hunter Dunham. Do you know Robertino Pietri?
I do not.
Yeah, insanely fast. He was a crew chief for the Moto2 World Champion. He's an AMA podium finisher. I mean, just insanely fast, racing again at that. And then we have Ryan Burke out of Colorado, Louis Ferrari in there, Michael Haynow, Pikes Peak record holder, going up the mountain.
Yeah.
This guy's AMA top 10 guy, Michael Haynow. So we've got that group of, and I'm sure I left two or three out, but we have that group that moves around the country and teaches. And then we invite in our junior instructors to augment that. So that's kind of how it's been working. So you will be riding with someone who is not just talking the talk, but they're walking the walk. And you know that saying, those who do, and those who can't teach.
Yeah.
Come to my school, get on the back with one of my instructors, and see how it goes. They do it really well, and they teach it really well, because, Mark, we work as hard on our vocabulary and our wording as we do our riding. And that has to be, the students have to hear the right message, and they have to hear it. It can be in a different voice, and you can put it in slightly different ways. The message has to be similar, from Ryan Burke to Cody Wyman to E. It has to be the same. Oh, Ben Walters, another sorry, Ben. It has to be that message of how it goes. And the beautiful thing is, once you've bought into the idea that let's ride the bike like the best in the world ride a motorcycle, once you've bought into that idea, it's very easy to prove it and talk about it. You don't even have to say what do I do in turn 4? You'll say what the best in the world, what Cody Wyman's doing, the national champion is doing in turn 4. He's braking a little bit earlier than you, but lighter, blah, blah, blah. So it's very nice. It's a very nice way to teach, because it gets you out of the opinion into, oh gosh, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Let's put it on the GP. Oh no, he does move his butt before he brakes, doesn't he? Okay, so that's how we do it.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I mean, because it does get so. I imagine it can get so granular with body positioning and brake timing and lean angle and feeling the traction and everything. I mean, it's so many things you have to break it down. It can't be an easy job.
No,
as fun as it may be, but it's so granular,
Yeah. Well, it's work, isn't it? That's why they call it work, and that's why
that is true.
That's why my instructors make a good living. I mean, my instructors make a good living because they're putting their health on the line, and also if the YCRS instructors aren't on point that day, if they're not good that day, then whoever is paying us for that 2 days, which is going to be $3,000 for sure, $3,000 out of your pocket for 2 days. If my instructors aren't on point for those people go home and say that school wasn't worth it, right? And that's what gets you going down the wrong path. So it's motivating to be paid well by instructors, but it's also motivating to hang out with this group of assassins. I mean, they just really are fantastic. I mean, they are so fantastic. They're good people. And sometime in their career, they were helped. Somebody in their career helped them. And oftentimes it was actually Champ School. I mean, some of those guys, Cody Wyman, Kyle Wyman, Ryan Burke, some of those guys came to Champ School as a student, and it helped them. And they're like, oh my gosh, Michael Haynow. And so now they're teaching for us at a high level. So if you've been helped at some level and you realize what it did for you, and you have that personality to give back, that's what they have. I mean, that's nice. That's what they have. And you asked about how to hire instructors. I hire instructors only on personality and temperament. The teaching, the motorcycling, we can teach. But if you're an a-hole and you're really full of yourself and you can't put words together, it's not going to work. And so if we got a guy comes in guy and gal comes in, they want to kill it, they want to be good at it, they're already riding at a pretty good level, that really gets us in there. That's what does it.
Thanks for listening to Driven to Ride. Interact with us and check out full unedited conversations, photos, interviews, video interviews, plus other goodies on YouTube or Instagram at Driven to Ride Podcast. Or you can check us out at driventoridepodcast.com. And make sure you leave us a rating and review from wherever you get your podcasts too. If you have an idea for an episode or a guest, or you want to invite us out on an adventure, email us hello@driventoridepodcast.com. Driven to Ride is wholly owned by Flint Rock LLC, made possible with help from Matthew Miles, and written, hosted, and produced by me, Mark Long. We'll see you out there.